Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Meenakshi and I am doing a video series on Specific Relief Act 1963. In today's video, we are discussing Section 1 of the legislation. The entire legislation is divided into three main parts. First is the preliminary part, second is talking about specific reliefs, and the third part talks about preventive relief. In today's video, we are going to discuss Section 1 of the Specific Relief Act. Section 1 of the Specific Relief Act contains three subclauses. Clause 1 tells us about the name or title of the statute. Clause 2 tells us about the extent or applicability of the legislation. And Clause 3 tells us about the commencement or date from when it became enforceable. The first clause tells us about the complete name of the legislation. It is the Specific Relief Act 1963. Now it's very important for us to remember the year as well whenever we are reading a legislation for any exams that we are preparing for. So make sure you remember that the Specific Relief Act is of the year 1963. Again, there are two dates that are very important for this legislation. One is the date when it was enacted and the date when it came into force. This Specific Relief Act was enacted on 13th of December 1963 and it came into force on 1st of March 1964. So make sure you remember both the date as well as the year for when it came into force and when it was enacted. Clause 2 of Section 1 tells us about the scope or applicability of the legislation. If you read the bare act, it tells us that it extends to the whole of India but except the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Yes, initially when this act came into force, it was not applicable to the state of Jammu and Kashmir. But now one major question that comes to our mind is whether this legislation is applicable to Jammu and Kashmir after Article 370 was removed. Fifth schedule of the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act 2019 made the Specific Relief Act 1963 applicable to both Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. So before this entire development of 2019 took place, Jammu and Kashmir was actually having a different legislation relating to specific relief. It was the Specific Relief Act 1977. But this legislation was repealed by the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act of the year 2019. So now if you get a question regarding the applicability of Specific Relief Act, you should be answering it that it is applicable to the whole of India, including the Union Territories of Jammu and Kashmir as well as Ladakh. Clause 3 makes a provision regarding the enforceability or when this legislation came into force. If you read the bare act, it mainly tells us that it shall come into force on such date as the central government may by notification in the official gazette appoint. Now what is this date that the legislation is talking about? For that, you need to refer to the first footnote of the bare act, which tells us that it came into force on 1st of March 1964. So what is Section 1 of Specific Relief Act all about? It tells us the title of the legislation, scope or applicability, and the date from when it became applicable or enforceable. So that was all for Section 1 of the Specific Relief Act. I hope this provision is clear to you. In case you have any doubts or questions, you can let me know that in the comment section below. Also, if there are any more video suggestions, you can leave that in the comment section below. I have also made some interesting and informative videos on the Indian Contract Act and you can access them by clicking on this playlist. And to view more videos relating to the Constitution of India, you can click over this playlist. To see other videos relating to different topics of law, you can consider subscribing to the channel. Until we meet next time, bye-bye.